We'll get to Deshaun Watson in a moment, but first, Graziano, let's run the hurry up. What's the timeline on Cam Newton finding a new team?
Still waiting to see what happens with Carolina, and when they decide it's probably going to be time to release him. It's going to be very difficult for them to trade him, as we've discussed several times. It likely gets to the point where he gets cut, and then the issue becomes, will a team take him on without getting a really close look at that foot and seeing how that's holding up and how it projects going forward? Going to be tough for Cam to find a job anytime soon.
So that's one quarterback situation. Here's another. What's up with Jameis Winston?
Jameis Winston, we discussed this yesterday. He's in the process of kind of resetting expectations, not likely to find an obvious starting job right now, may need to go to a team where he has to fight for a starting job or spend some time as a backup. We should know, I would think, in the next couple of weeks what kind of market he has.
And then finally, a different kind of quarterback situation. What details should we know about Marcus Mariota's contract with the Raiders?
Marcus Mariota's contract with the Raiders looks a lot like the one that Saints gave Teddy Bridgewater last year. They gave Bridgewater $7.25 million plus incentives if he played. Mariota's getting $7.5 million and can get up to about $12 or $13 million this year if he plays enough and if they win enough games. But it's a high-end backup quarterback contract that really recognizes how many games Mariota started in the league.
I can tell you this, John Gruden, when Mariota was coming out in the draft, absolutely loved him. And all of that brings us back to the aforementioned DeAndre Hopkins, who was traded last week for what most in the industry perceived to be less than market value. His now former teammate and quarterback, Deshaun Watson, was on Twitter yesterday tweeting lyrics from a song by Drake called Emotionless. And here's the tweet. I don't know how I'm going to make it out of here clean. Can't even keep track of who plays for the other team. Iconic duos rip and split at the seams. So, Dan Graziano, what can you tell us first and foremost? Because everyone will look at this and say, oh, Deshaun Watson's disgusted. He's going to get out of there. What are the chances he gets out of there?
Well, I think they're slim if you look at it from a financial and football standpoint for the Houston Texans. They have him this year for a little more than $2 million, and then they have a fifth-year option on him for 2021, probably come in around $25 million. So add that together, you have one of the best players in the league for the next 2 years for about, $12.5, $13 million a year. Why would they move on from that? But then you think to yourself, why would they trade DeAndre Hopkins? And is Deshaun Watson going to be upset that they traded DeAndre Hopkins? And did DeAndre Hopkins give Deshaun Watson some sort of blueprint for how to get out of Houston if you're upset? I believe that the Hopkins trade has opened the door for that kind of speculation. And unless Houston signs Deshaun Watson to a contract extension this offseason, I think that speculation will continue into the 2020 season whenever it does start.
Yes, we will continue to speculate about it here for certain. Graziano, thank you. Swagoo and Orlovsky are back. Swagoo, I thought that I did an outstanding job with those lyrics. So I'll give them to you again. I don't know how I'm going to make it out of here clean. Can't even keep track of who plays for the other team. Iconic duos rip and split at the seams. What should we take from those lyrics?
Gee, in my head, I had a beat going while you were saying that.
Me too.
So it felt good
Bars.
hearing you say that with some fluidity. Yeah, no doubt. Gee, I read into the first line of that, and to me, it's a subliminal, and I'm always one to be like, man, we don't need to read into it that much. Deshaun Watson doesn't think this is going to end well, based on what he just watched for him in Houston. He's thinking about that. That's in his head, seeing D-Hop be traded. And that's one of the realities of this business, that certain things happen in certain teams in certain situations that makes you realize, dang, we are expendable. One of the best at his position in his prime just was traded away because of something, I guess, personal between D-Hop and Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien knows Deshaun Watson is paying close attention to this. He knows that this has affected Deshaun Watson. And based on a lot of guys that I've had the opportunity to speak with the Texans, D-Hop was one of the most well-loved guys in that locker room. So it goes beyond affecting Deshaun Watson. But when it comes to the field of play and you take away a quarterback that's trying to ascend and become one of the best in the game, best weapon, it creates this this type of energy, and this type of energy is not good when Deshaun Watson is up for a contract with Houston. He may want to get out of there.
Dan, it almost feels like such an obvious question, but I'd like to hear it from a quarterback. If you're a quarterback and they trade away this great receiver with whom you have this extraordinary chemistry, we just showed you the stat, they've connected for more touchdowns than anyone in the league the last 3 years. I mean, where does that leave Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, alone, Greeny. And I think that's the message here. Deshaun Watson is saying, I'm alone. I need to get everyone to understand this is the 21st century. And if we think that athletes don't use social media to tell us exactly how they feel, we're kidding ourselves. This is a guy that for the last 10 years of his life has had everybody tell him, listen, make sure that you are aware of what you're saying, because everyone is going to hang on every single word that you say, whether publicly and or via social media. This is not a mistake by Deshaun Watson. He's telling us, I'm alone. I feel alone out here right now. And listen, we need to be a little sensitive and aware of the realities of the organization. They've been dealt with some difficult times, the Houston Texans. The passing of their owner, Bob McNair, and then their general manager at the time, Rick Smith's wife, becoming fatally ill, have kind of left a void of leadership in this organization. And so that is a very difficult situation. But they're looking for leadership right now. This organization lacks leadership, and that falls on Bill O'Brien right now. And to Marcus's point, if I'm a quarterback and I'm going, wait, you just traded away our best player because you didn't like him, because you couldn't get along with him, I'm going, I have to look at my future. I have to look at my future if I'm Deshaun Watson and going, what would make me want to stay here? Take the fans away from it, because that's emotion, I get all that, and he loves the city, I'm sure. But what would make me think that I'm going to be supported the right way here? Because you just traded away my best player, not because he can't play, but because you don't like him. And I promise you, Deshaun Watson has sat there when he's sending out that tweet going, I don't think I could be here. And his agent, David Mulgeta, is one of the best and most powerful in the game. And if I'm Deshaun Watson, there's no chance I'm signing an extension at any point in Houston right now.
All right, I'm going to leave it there on that for a moment, but we will do more on this in our next hour, including what we think may be the next step in Houston. But now, I want to get back to plausible deniability. This is something that we created yesterday on the show, and it is a place where, and I started it yesterday, and I'm going to let Orlovsky take today's plausibly deniable hot take. You make a statement that you know people are going to disagree with, but you somewhere in your heart actually believe to be true, but we're going to give you plausible deniability. So I will not hold you to this if it proves to be untrue. Those are the rules of the game. It's our show. We can make them up. Here we go. Orlovsky, what do you think? What's your plausibly deniable hot take for today?
Greeny, Baker Mayfield will have the best season in 2020 of any of the AFC North quarterbacks. And let me tell you why. Number one, they have their new head coach. Number two, they addressed their biggest need at offensive line with the signing of Jack Conklin and the addition of Austin Hooper at tight end. And number three, the scheme. I want to take everybody to the 5 quarterbacks last year that majored in this Kyle Shanahan, Mike Shanahan scheme that Kevin Stefanski is going to run. The 5 quarterbacks are Jared Goff, Jimmy Garoppolo, Aaron Rodgers, Ryan Tannehill, and Kirk Cousins. Those 5 guys last year won 2-21 as starting quarterbacks. They completed 66% of their passes for a quarterback rating of 100% average. They threw for 128 touchdowns and 45 interceptions. Greeny, quarterbacks in this offense always play well. Baker Mayfield, and I've told everybody this, is a play-action passing quarterback. Last year, in play-action, Baker was 106 as a passer rating. In drop-back, he was 68. We know exactly who he is as a player. Now he's in an offense that will major in what he does well. They made the additions that they needed. He is going to be the best quarterback in that division.
Swagger, you look skeptical.
Because I am, G. What do you mean I look it? You damn right I'm skeptical. Lamar Jackson is in that conference. And also Ben Roethlisberger is coming back to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers as well for what we know as a healthy quarterback. And Baker Mayfield going to be the best one in the division? I get it. I get the whole plausible deniability. I understand the sale and all of that. But it ain't no way in hell you going to get me to believe that.
I love it because it is exactly what the setup is supposed to be. This is something that is a little bit outrageous that you kind of believe, and we'll see if it winds up being true. And Dan, you have my promise that when it winds up being as far from true as anything could possibly be, I, for one, will not hold it against you. We continue here on Get Up as the morning continues. A different